Hi, everyone. How are you? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us today. I'm so happy today because we have a spectacular speaker, a very beloved lady here by the community of Guapalita. It's on the first time that she is with us. She has already shared with us her expertise and her knowledge in this amazing topic that is Enneagram. And I know that most of you might ask, okay, what is Enneagram? Or maybe some of you already watched the first webinar that we have with her and might learn more about what might be these consequences or ripple effect about using Enneagram when team working, in my relationships with other people. And today we're going to learn more. But let me just tell you something about this speaker. She is a Global Master Certified Coach by the International Coaching Federation. She's a Global Women of Influence Awards 2024 winner. And she's also an accredited professional Enneagram coach. Also a keynote speaker. She's also a fantastic human being, and she's also a member of our Guapalita community. And I'm so happy to welcome you, Murielle Gatred. Thank you so much for being here, Murielle. And please, audience, if you have any question, feel free to type any question in our messenger. So, Murielle, the stage is yours.
Wow, thank you so much, Adely. I'm very excited to be here today with you and to share a bit of my expertise. So for the people who are here, I just want to make an overview of what we'll cover today. So what are the objectives for today? Let's do like this, today, okay. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah. So what is it? As you could see on the first page, there was a symbol, and in fact, that the Enneagram, is more an approach for growth. So it's a map. It's a map of 9 ego structures, and this approach researches the deep motivation behind the behaviors. So that's why there's a difference between this approach and other ones you may have heard about, just like DISC, MBTI, process communication, and so on. They are all great. The difference is that this one focuses on the why. Why do I act as I do? So, and this map helps us understand ourselves better and deeper beyond the behaviors, not only ourselves, but also others. And it's not, I would say that it's not a box, it's not a fixed label, not at all, because you will get the tailor-made keys to evolve. And you will get much more than your strengths and growth areas. You will get also the false beliefs, the defense mechanism, your subtypes, and much more. So I don't want to go in details because we don't have time, but we are here to better understand what it is and what you can do with this. So we work on the deep motivation behind the behaviors. So it's one of the key for you to help identify your type. So the Enneagram helps us improve not just how we work with others, but also how we lead ourselves and others by understanding our core motivation and blind spots. Now that we have this shared understanding, I suggest that we take a look at the 9 types and what each of them brings to a team. So we can move forward with the slide. Yes. So you see here in the symbol, we all have the 3 intelligence centers. The one is the action, the other one is the emotion, and the third one is the mental. We all have the 3 of them, but what makes a difference between Adely maybe and myself, it might be which center of intelligence we use the most. So action is center, it's instinctive center. We act before feeling and or acting. Emotional center for the personality, 2, 3, 4, they feel before thinking and or acting. And the mental one, so 5, 6, and 7, they think before feeling and or acting. So, and the 3 centers, they give, in fact, the 9 types. So that's what we are going to see just now in the next slide. Yeah, so first of all, I would like to stress on the fact that it's an overview. Each type or each ego structure, for me, it's more an ego structure than a type, but each of them is more complex and complete than what I'm going to share now. 1 hour to explain everything is not enough, so it's an overview. So, and there's a legend. So M means motivation, A means what each type tend to avoid, how do they behave in teams, and some of their blind spots. So it's not exhaustive, it's just to give an overview. So the action center, you remember, are personality types 8, 9, 1. So I would say type 8, the deep motivation is control. Control, usually the deep motivation is unconscious, but the control of people, control of situations. We all have a tendency to be controlling. It's not because we are controlling that we are type 8. It's the core motivation, so something very strong. Then the deep motivation for type 8 is control. So they try to avoid, they work hard to avoid vulnerability, to demonstrate emotions, for instance. And in teams, they can be seen as assertive, very decisive, with a strong energy, direct in their communication, and with high energy to move projects forward. So some of their blind spots, they may not be aware, they may not be conscious of the impact of that strong energy. So it's a blind spot, the presence, that energy. They can be seen also as confrontational or dominant. Type 9 is also in the action center. The deep motivation for type 9 is harmony. Because they are looking for harmony, they do their best to avoid conflicts. And of course, there are other types who avoid conflicts, but remember, the first key to identify all types is the deep motivation. So in teams, they can be seen, they can be perceived as being calm, as being easygoing, complacent, inclusive, and some of their blind spots may be depending on the levels of development, because each type has 9 levels of development. So when they are at their average level of development, they may avoid conflict or express themselves. They can appear disengaged and also detached, specifically under stress. And the harmony can be also a blind spot. So type 1. Type 1 is also an action center. So type 1 is motivated by improvement. They want to improve things, improve people. So because they do their best to improve, they work hard for this. So they work hard to avoid mistakes because they want to make things perfect. So in teams, what do they bring? They bring structure, they bring some objectivity. They are very task focused with their average level of development, with less social interactions. So when they evolve, they are able to do more social social relationships. Some of them blind spots, they may be perceived as overly critical and or rigid because they do their best to improve things. So they are very self-critical and they can be very critical towards people. So let's move forward with the emotional center. Type 2, type 3, type 4. So type 2 is driven by a core motivation, recognition. So they do their best to get this recognition. And one way is to focus on others' needs. So they have a tendency to avoid knowing their own needs. And in teams, they show up as very supportive, very warm, generous, empathetic at heart. So some of their blind spots related to their ego structure, in fact, they may be, some of their blind spots may be to be overly involved and sometimes possessive. So type 3, also an emotional center. The deep motivation is success because they are looking for applause for their success. They do their best to avoid failures. So in general, they feel very quickly what they think or feel they need to say or to demonstrate. And in teams, they appear very goal-oriented, very success-oriented. They want to accomplish results. They look very confident. It doesn't mean that they are confident. Some of their blind spots, because they are so success-driven, they may be impatient with people who have another pace, for instance. So, or impatient with other feelings. So they can be overly competitive too. So type 4. Type 4, so the deep motivation is to be unique because it's important to them to be and to feel unique. They do their best to avoid routine or to avoid banality, in fact, banality. So they are very emotions oriented. Emotions are very important to them, up and down. So in teams, they are looking for authenticity, to be authentic and to be heard, also to be heard as being authentic with their emotions. So they look also for depth in relations, depth in projects, depth in discussions. And some of their blind spots are, they can be seen and also they may not be aware of the impact of their mood, so moodiness. And they may have a tendency to focus on the past or on what is missing rather than on what exists. So this might be also blind spots for type 4. Now, let's move forward to the mental center. So the type 5, the deep motivation is independence. So they are looking for independence, and a way to get this, it can be because it depends, of course, but it can be the knowledge, it can be other things. So it's important to them to avoid what we call in the Enneagram world the inner emptiness. So it means I don't have enough knowledge, in fact, and they avoid also intrusion. So meaning, there were some people who are very talented to get to know other people and to raise questions, who you are and where do you come from and so on. With type 5, it's quite difficult because type 5 can see this as an intrusion. So yeah, so in teams, remember, they are in the mental center, they are very analytical, they can make connections, mental connections between very complex ideas, and they have a tendency to compartmentalize. Some of their blind spots, they need to, in fact, they need to withdraw to resource themselves, to rest, because social interactions may be seen by some 5, lots of 5, as very energy costly. So for them, one of their blind spots is withdrawal, and they can appear aloof and overly independent. So they can withdraw and not socialize with others, just to have time to be alone and recharge themselves. So type 6, the deep motivation is security, because they are looking for security. What does that mean? They need to be secure and to trust their environment. So they look for dangers. They avoid what they call dangers. So in teams, they are very loyal to company and employees. They have the talent to anticipate problems and so on. So they can draw a plan A, B, C, D. So it's a strength, and also in sometimes when overuse arose earlier. And some of their blind spots is they worry a lot. They are skeptical, because be doubtful is part of 6, in fact. So, but they may not be aware of how much their worry or being skeptical can impact their results and can impact their relationships and can impact the team. So type 7, the last one, type 7, the deep motivation is pleasure. Of course, we all look for pleasure, but it's very strong. So because they look for pleasure, everything can be a pleasure. They have a tendency to avoid pain and suffering. Their suffering and other suffering of others. And in teams, so they focus on opportunities. So in teams, they look very enthusiastic. They bring this positivity. They bring, even in a crisis, they are very enthusiastic about new things. So they are future oriented, and just like 6 and 5. And they may be impatient with people who are not so quick as they are. And it's important to them to get their freedom. You know, it means not so many rules, or to get the freedom to innovate, to create. And some of their blind spots, it's they can, well, because they have lots of ideas, they can launch several projects at the same time. So some of their blind spot is the unfocused. They can be seen as unfocused, and this can be a blind spot for them. Yeah. So if it's not clear, just let me know. Just let me know. So what is it? I would say that the Enneagram is both a psychological and also a spiritual framework. Spiritual because it helps us reconnect with who we are at a deeper level, beyond the ego patterns, because each of the ego structure has some emotional patterns, has some thinking patterns also, and behavioral patterns, so that we have built. So, and when we understand, when we are aware of our blind spots, how our behaviors impact our results and impact the team. So it means that we can start working on this to unlock our potential. So, and to unlock our influencing role, for instance. So some of the types are more task oriented, some other ones are more people oriented, but in teams, we all have the two roles. So some part of the role is focused on task, and other parts are focused on relationships. So, but based on our type, we all have gifts, and so our gift is more on task or more on people oriented. So we all have something to develop, and that's why it's important to be aware of this. So I think we can move forward if you don't, if you want, Elderly. Thank you. So we have seen the 9 types very quickly. Again, it was an overview. Each type is more complete and more complex than what I shared, but it's an overview in this webinar. And in addition to the 9 types, you'll remember there were 9 types. All of them have 3 intelligence centers, but they may overuse one, the action, the feeling, and all the mental. And for each of the type or ego structure, there were 3 variations. So 3 variations of the ego structure 1, 3 variations of the 2, and so on. So what does that mean, subtype? Some people call them also instinctual biases. It's also a bias, you know. So I will share with you very briefly and very, I will simplify what it is to make it understandable for teams. So for people, I would say for individuals, it's a particular expression of attention. And a particular, it means that we value some activities in life. So it's a particular focus of attention. And for the organizations, it's functional needs. I explain. The 3 subtypes are self-preserving, SP, social, and one-to-one. But what does that mean? Self-preserving, we can move forward, Adderley. Thank you. So, okay, so the preserving one, what does that mean? It means that people, they have a focus of attention, so on physical comfort, on danger, on structure, on money, on the fridge. It's important that the fridge be full, for instance, and so on security, the money that brings security, for instance. So it's for individuals. They look for the nest, you know. So type 1, SP, a type 1, there were 3 valuations of each type. So they will focus more on the nest. What does that mean within organizations? We are here to speak about the teams. So within organizations, it means that the self-preserving so will focus on structure, on procedures, on process, on attention to details. And they have this ability to predict problems and potential pitfalls, in fact. So it's a talent. They are talents. And when you overuse, it becomes a growth area. So some growth areas, some potential growth areas, because you remember there were 9 levels of development. So for people who are at their average of their average level of the development, so level 4, 5, around this one, so they may avoid to take risk to maintain security. So it means that in teams and on organizations, they may be more conservative, traditional than innovative, for instance. And usually they, I would say, they could be better in self-promotion. Yeah. So it's one subtype. It's one focus of attention. The other subtype is called navigating, and we can move forward to the next slide. So the social, also called navigating. So what does that mean? It's a focus of attention. So it's something that is in mind. So those ones, the social subtypes, are people who focus more on community, on groups, on belonging, on social relationships, and so on. So it means that it's the orientation to the group, how people reveal themselves to others and interact with others. So the social subtype, people who recognize themselves more with this social subtype, they want to know who has the power. It doesn't mean that they look for the power. Some yes, but some no. But they want to know who has the power. They want to know who they fit in the hierarchy of the group, of the company, and so on. So it's not because they are very group oriented, they are all extrovert. No, you can find some introvert people there until they know, well, they fit in the hierarchy. And it's important for them to bring information that will be useful to the team, to the group. So, and they are, I would say, very interested in information about people. So the behaviors relate to status and relate to identity. It doesn't mean that they look for high status. Some will look for this, some will not look for this, but yeah, it's a focus of attention. Yeah. So it's the second subtype. We can move forward with the last subtype, the one-on-one, which is also called transmitting. I would say I understand myself being with the one-on-one as the dominant one. So what does that mean? It means that the people who recognize themselves is in this, they look for intensity in the relationship. They look for depth in the relationship. So they look for privacy. They have the talent to bond easily, and they may not be aware of this, but it's important for them to be seen, to attract. So, but they may not be aware of this, and they prefer face-to-face relationships and in a small groups, either one-to-one or very small groups. And of course, so there were, if I speak about, for instance, type 1, so there will be a type 1 who will focus, who will be an SP, self-preserving, type 1 who will be a navigating, and a type 1 who will be a one-on-one. What does that mean? It means that they all share, the three of them share the main characteristics. So they will share the deep motivation, the avoidance, and so on. But the focus of attention, the improvement, for instance, will be for the SP on procedures. For the social, very briefly, will be how can I improve the organizations, the social organizations, and the one-on-one, the focus will be how can I improve people? You know, improvement is there, but the focus of attention is on specific things, is different. So we can move forward now. So it's just a summary of what I shared. So I give you maybe 15 seconds, and then we can move forward. I think we can move forward now. We can speak about team. So what is a team? A team is different one from a group. You know, a group is individuals without common goals, but a team has common goals, alignments in vision, strategies, and more. And there were interdependence. I mean that there were people working together. So maybe elderly working with me and working with Carol. So there were interactions, interdependence between the three of us. In a team, as I explained earlier, so there were roles, task roles versus relationship roles. And everyone, every ego structure or type, if you prefer that word, everyone brings unique strengths, potential, possible growth areas, and their own patterns, the emotional patterns, the behavioral patterns, and the thinking patterns. And when we become aware of this and of the impact, so we can think about, what do I contribute? What do I lose when I overuse my type's pattern? So it's a way to grow as a person and as a leader, and a way to grow as a team also. So to make it concrete, for instance, to make it concrete, for instance, yeah, type 1 is very task oriented, you know, and yeah, their own journey is to also develop the emotional. So I would say that when they work together with type 2 is very warm, very generous at heart, very people oriented. So they can complement each other, of course. But the type 2 who spontaneously play a relationship role may have a tendency to learn how to be more task oriented, for instance. And for the one, or for type 5 who are more task oriented, it's a journey for them to evolve and to find the greater balance between being task and people oriented. Yeah, so we can move forward to the next slide. Yeah, so each of the ego structure, in fact, they have a preference and they have their own ideas, their preferred ideas of what a goal should be. You know, in a team, we work on a common goal, on a shared goal. And sometimes people don't agree with this, or they don't understand, and so on. Well, or it doesn't make sense, and so on and so on. But because we are all unique, and because we all have preferred team goals. So what does that mean? I give you a concrete example. For instance, type 2, they need a goal which is common, yes, and meaningful. And a goal which utilize the talents of others. So you see, you remember generous, empathetic by heart. They are very people-oriented. So this has an impact on their preferred goal. While type 1, for instance, more task-oriented, they look for they need a clear, very realistic and purposeful goal. Type 8, for instance, type 8 is, just to give a short reminder, the core motivation is control of situations, control of people. So they focus their attention on power. On power. Who has the power? Who is the true leader? And in fact, they have lots of energy. They may not be aware of the impact of their energy. So for them, their preferred goal is, I would say, the goal should reflect the big picture and move the organization. It's in the action center. They have lots of energy to keep things moving, and then they are at the service of this. So they have a preference of team goals. And every type or ego structure have also prefer team interdependence, way to interact. So I would say, for instance, recently I coached a leader type 5 who was seen as being very task-oriented, very efficient, but in fact he realized that he needed to stay alone for lunchtime in order to find some time for him, because it was his way to rest, to gain some energy, physical, mentally, and emotional energy, in order to be able to work and to work with other people. So of course, he likes working with other people, but the interactions he believes that the interactions cost energy. But during the coaching, he realized that, wow, it brings social interactions, brings so much. So he shifted the belief into something more positive, so he could have another perspective of the interdependence. So he could enrich himself, in fact, thanks to discussions, deep, because type 5 is looking for depth also, and they don't like small talk. So it must be very, very quick. So they are looking for low interdependence. They are looking, type 5 is looking for high degree of autonomy. You remember the deep motivation is independence. So it's important also for them to be autonomous. And it's important for them because they are highly efficient. They look for simplification. So it's important for them to work with capable and efficient team members. Yeah. So it's just to give some examples. But of course, all types value team goals. All types can be driven by goals that connect to a larger purpose, beyond the department, beyond the company, for social impact, for humanity, for the planet, and so on. And everyone brings their uniqueness, their unique gifts, their unique strengths, their unique patterns also, and much more. But each of them, they have specific expectations in terms of what a goal should be, and they relate to interdependence differently. So I think we can move forward with the next slide. Yes. And then here, in fact, yes, a team has different levels of development. So when the team is new, we call it forming. So we spend time to get to know each other. Then when this stage is done, we move forward to another step. We call it storming. And usually is this specific stage of team development happens some conflicts, and some people may look for power. So there might be some struggles around power. And so the forming is more who we are and where we are going. The storming is more, can't we all just get along? And then when we find the solution and so on, we are in the third phase, norming. How do we get out of this mess? So it means that we build shared norms and trust. So we build some rules and much more than this. And then we can perform, we can work effectively, collaborate with others, and so on. Of course, in a team journey, we can sometimes come back to a previous level because there's a change. And in order to be high performing, in fact, there are other elements, other criteria which are important. For instance, to know better at a deeper level the team members. Who are they? What drives them? How can I adapt my communication to them? And so on. So I give you an example, for instance, for the four stages of team development. For instance, type 3. So at the forming, they seek team approval early. They may assert themselves in order to define goals. At the storming stage, type 3, they can become disengaged because they perceive conflict as wasting time or being too emotional. Once again, it depends on their level of development. And then at the norming for type 3, in fact, they like the unification so they can refocus on team or results and on an efficient work. And performing, so at that stage, in fact, is their favorite stage, so they can encourage others to develop their performance, to go at a higher level of performance, to increase their performance. So we all have, I would say, some specific behaviors in each of those stages. And my question for you, I give you 30 seconds or 45 seconds, is, do you like teams? And the second is why or why not? And if you think about an experience of yours, how do you behave at each of the stages? If you cannot answer for the fourth of them, no worries. Just answer what you can. And then, do those behaviors help or slow down the team's progress, the teamwork, and its development? Yeah, are you ready?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So it was for you. So maybe someone is willing to share briefly what you answered. It can be in the chat, it can be verbally, but I kindly ask you to make it brief.
Meanwhile, someone writes in the chat, I would like to share something. You allow me, Muriel?
Yes, of course.
I think that in my experience, one of the toughest moments that perhaps I have ever experienced challenge is when I have to work with multicultural teams, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
So multicultural teams and multidisciplinary teams, because
Yes,
I mean, when you belong to the same culture, and even though you belong to different disciplines, I mean, it's something. But when you belong to different disciplines, but on top, you belong to a different culture. Oh my God, this is escalated. The challenge escalates, and this is when you really have to um, be very, very flexible and very open-minded to identify first why that person is really proposing that as the best way, or the best the best way to lead, to work, to function, because the cultural roots really played a role in these perspectives, right?
right,
Teamwork. So
right.
I just wanted to say that because, of course, getting to know each other by considering that you belong to a different framework, cultural framework, um, requires a lot of flexibility, open-minded, and adaptation, right? And mobility, right? Hitting your mindset, I guess.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, I have just relocated from Hong Kong to France. So two different cultures. So I empathize, I feel empathy for you because with what you say, I know that you work with different cultures, and in the Enneagram, together with another tool, you know, in the Enneagram, you can identify your own personality, but you can also identify, I didn't speak about this because we are talking about teams, but yes, there were some cross-cultural teams. And then with the Enneagram, we can identify the culture of the team. We can also identify the culture of the country. For instance, in France is type 4, meaning that the deep motivation is unique. There are lots of uniqueness in France. L'exception culturelle française, the cultural exception, the French, the French cultural. Oh, I can't speak anymore. Sorry. The French cultural exception, you know, for cinema, for culture, for wine, and so on. Yeah, so, and people in France are very emotional, meaning that they, most of the time, they are on strike before trying to find a solution or a compromise or something, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. In China, for instance, and in Asia, the culture of, and in the US, the culture of objective, you know, yes, we can do it, you know, is very goal oriented, you know, is
Yes.
type 3. You know, Hong Kong, Belgium, where I lived also, is more in the consensus, you know, because there were three languages. So it's more type 9 and so on. You know, Hong Kong, according to me, I might be wrong, is more type 6. lots of security, security everywhere, you know. So it can be the self-preserving also subtype, but according to me, what I can see, the way I felt it 5 years there, it was type 6. But yeah, it's my perception.
It's so fantastic, I mean, to identify that there might be some alignment among some cultures, right?
Yes.
And of course, in this spectrum of the features, the characteristics of each culture, there might be also cultures that are completely on opposite sides and they have to work together. They have to work together and they have to find a way because
Exactly.
not a way, they have to find a way.
Exactly. That's why also be aware of our own blind spots on our patterns and so on, because this approach is valid everywhere in the world, you know, everywhere, in all cultures, in all countries. So whatever you are, a Chinese, Arabic, Belgian, I don't know, you know, you can be aware of your Enneagram type, you know, and the consequence of the way you behave, you think, and so on, for you as a person, for you as a manager or leader, and also compared to the culture. Because when I was in Asia, lots of people considered this, they believed they were type 3 because the culture, the objective is the competition is very high. So they believed they were type 3, but there was a confusion between the background, family, education, between the culture of the country and who they are. So we worked on this. Some were type 3 as dominant, but some not, you know. So, and so you can work on this, but yes, it requires lots of openness, flexibility, open-minded. So it's a way to apply core competency number 2 at ICF in coaching, which is growth mindset. Growth mindset, yes. And it's the same with AI now. AI everywhere in the world, you know, in companies and so on. So AI, yeah, it just is an evolution, not a revolution. According to me, it's my perception. But yeah, we need to be open. But if you are interested in cross cultures, you know, we may speak about this at another time. But you know, I'm also a cross-cultural coach, and I use a specific tool for cross cultures. So first, you identify your own preferences and the preferences of the culture you work with, and how can you adapt both sides.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
We have like 5 minutes. I don't know
Okay.
if we advance in the next slides or if there's any important closing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you can move forward very quickly to the other one, the next one. Yeah. So this one. So I would say, you know, is what you can see on this slide is a team composition. So there's the leader with a specific type, and there were team members with other types. And there's a culture, a type of the culture also of the team. So what does that mean? You know, we can see the profile of individuals, but we can see also the profile of a team. So it means that in this specific example, this team combined strong relational and emotional intelligence with clear goals and discipline. Well, a strong interpersonal and and relational skills. There were some blind spots. So the team may feel fairly balanced emotionally and relationally thanks to types 2, 4, 6, and 9, because 9, well, 9 is also very people-oriented. There's a strong task focus and discipline thanks to types 3 and 1, but also to sensitivity to others, so types 2 and 4. We can see that there were some types who are missing, 5, 7, 8, but does it mean that we lack something, that something is, that there's a lack of strategic detachment or enthusiasm? Well, maybe or maybe not. It depends on, I would say, it depends on how, let me check. For instance, there's a type 7 here. You see that type 7 is connected with an arrow to type 5. So the type 7 can, use his 5 part because they are connected. So in order to bring this or those bonds to the team and so on. So it's just a quick overview of what we can do, and we can also adapt our communication to each team members when we see this. What are my strengths? What are my growth areas? What are the impacts on other team members? And what am I ready to change, to evolve for the teams?
So here the suggestion, Muriel, is like from the number I start, let's say that I'm a 7, or let's say that I'm an 8, I'm
Yes.
going to pick up a person who belongs to my, like my side, like in this case will be the number 5, because it's like very technical. I mean, I'm very active. I like to have control, and then the number 5 will match with my control mindset. Okay, the technical part will match with that, but I also need to make that balance the number 2, which is like more relational support. Otherwise, we are going to be super operational, right?
Right,
So it's
right,
always
right.
looking for this balance from a person that belongs to my side and someone who belongs to the other side. I mean, if I want to divide like the circle in 2, right? Just like
Yeah,
divide it from.
yeah. Thank you so much for the question, Adely. Thank you so much for the question, because this question is a question of leadership growth. So do you need to hire someone compatible with you? I would say that we are all compatible. It depends on how much open you are and how much are you ready to make some efforts, because in the beginning it's work, it doesn't come in 2 seconds, but as for instance, type 8, okay, type 8, I've met some leaders type 8 who are very controlling, who wants to make things happen, very energetic, and so on. So very action oriented. They are very direct in their communication. And so in the beginning, when they are at their average level of the development, they are not aware of, they may not be aware of the impact of their strong energy, of the direct communication on others. So they may be seen as people with a lack of empathy, and they are very surprised because they are very protective. So be with their teams, so a way for them to grow is to connect to their 2 parts. It's a tailor-made journey to develop the emotional center, and to develop the mental center can be 5. So 5 can help them step back from the action. 5 can bring some um, objectivity and much more than this. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. But there's no one type better than other ones. They are all, I would say, good types with all their strengths and
Yeah.
growth areas, And I know that some people prefer recruiting people belonging to the same type or very close to them, but is there preference? I wouldn't recommend this because, the team might be limited. The resources, the
Yes.
access to the resources may be limited.
Yeah.
So, and according to me, the Enneagram is not an approach to recruit. It's more an approach to help people develop their potential. So in coaching, in training, in leadership development, and it's more for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, we just start with the wrap up. Do you mind to move to the next slide?
Yes, of course, go.
Okay. So let me just check here. Do you want to go there, or is there anything else that?
No. I would say that the Enneagram is a way also to adapt your communication when you understand better how people work from their planet, not from your planet, So you can use the words that make sense to them. You can use the explanations that make sense to them, the sentences, and so on. It's a question of respect also, inclusive. Yeah. So a greater self-awareness creates better teamwork. So learn how to value all the ego structures, the 9 types, and also subtypes. And from my perspective, teams thrive when everyone is heard and seen, in a team.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. Absolutely. Yes, this has been fantastic, Muriel. I mean, I really learned a lot. I made my notes. I'm pretty sure that also the people who work with us took their notes. And of course, I mean, if you guys want to re-listen again this important video, this important information, you can just watch the video again as many times as you want. Take your notes, reflect, think about the possibilities, think about all the combinations, and think about all the wonders that as human beings can offer, right? To teams.
Exactly.
We can,
Exactly. Yeah.
because we really have at our core, I mean, there's something natural, this natural core, this natural personality that distinguishes us. But of course, we evolve and we're not the same person, right? And based on the situation, we can also evolve and show different traits, right? Okay. Any wrap-up sentence that you want to say, Muriel, as conclusion?
Well, just this one. Let me share this one very quickly.
Mhm.
Oh, can you share the last, because I don't access to the share screen. Can you
Sure.
share the last slide? That's all.
Sure. Let me just go there.
The last one. The last one. Yes. So transformation takes time. So if you want to continue your journey, I invite you to reflect, to watch the first webinar. Feel free to contact me to get the link, to listen to the first webinar explaining the 9 types in a more detailed way. And then watch this one again. Feel free to contact me. I will be more than happy to help you better understand yourself and all your teams. And yeah, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn also.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. So you
Yeah.
guys, you have their contact details from Muriel. Feel free to send your questions. Feel free to maybe request any other information about the different programs that Murielle offers to individuals and also to organizations. That would be fantastic. Also to keep learning about how organizations can improve based on this methodology, how they can improve in communication, in teamwork, in, how they can improve in multicultural teams, because she's also an intercultural speaker and trainer, and she knows exactly how you can be oriented and help in those dynamics. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Murielle, for this
Thank you.
amazing information. And of course, feel free to let us know any other important topic that you consider we might share and we need to share with other audience in the next months in this 2025. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much to you for this amazing opportunity to share a bit of my passion and expertise. And thank you so much to all participants here for your time. And I wish you a great reflection and great week. Thank you so much to you. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. So thank you guys, and see you in the next webinar. So big hugs. Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Ciao. Bye.